Hi everyone, this is my video about what's wrong with DREDD, the movie from 2012. Not the Stallone version from what, like 1995, something like that. So I just rewatched it, finished it earlier this morning. I've seen it, I don't know, 3 times, maybe. I didn't see it in the theaters originally. And the first thing I need to get out of the way is there's a bad feeling I've had about this movie that has nothing to do with the movie itself and isn't the movie's fault. And that is in geek culture, whatever. One of the things that drives me nuts is that there are certain movies, TV shows, comics, whatever, where they will basically like order you to like it or not like it. There's a lot of stuff you can kind of make your own decision, but some stuff is just like, you have to hate this. And then they'll just change their mind after harassing people for like with Prometheus. For 10 years, you couldn't mention you liked that without a bunch of geeks jumping down your throat. And then right when Romulus comes out, they suddenly like Prometheus. Anyway, so when DREDD came out in theaters, it underperformed, and there were a lot of hopes for a trilogy, and they were just squashed. Quashed, not squashed. And it was just no hope, and it was the geek thing of like, oh, this is such a tragedy. It's an amazing movie, and spoiler, it's okay. It's okay. It's kind of weird to me that they released this in the theaters when it's clearly a sci-fi original movie. Like, it is low budget, repetitive, limited amount of sets, limited amount of characters. It's good, but they really overdid both how good DREDD 2012 is or was and how bad, quote-unquote, Stallone's version. There was a lot of just Stallone hate, 90s hate, and it's like, this is, I mean, in 2012, we're going to do a realistic version of this superhero. That was not like the completely tiresome cliche that it is right now. I think I need my tires changed. There used to not be as much road noise as there is right now. Wow, this is actually fairly loud. I'm just gonna, I guess, scream over the road noise. But anyway, so DREDD has nothing to do with Judge Dredd besides being based on the same character. They're not sequels or prequels or any of that type of stuff. It's a reboot for a planned trilogy that never happened, and I still see interviews to this day. Even Carl Urban, with the huge success of The Boys, and they still say, 12 years later, is there going to be a DREDD sequel? And he's like, oh, maybe, or maybe it'll be a miniseries. I always think it's hilarious when people like do entire articles about actors being open to things, or just say, like, for a while there during like the cancel culture SJW years, like the most common thing was to go up to like Tom Holland. It's like, would you be cool if they turned Peter Parker gay? And of course he always says yes. Number one, because he wants work. Number two, because his career would be destroyed if he said no. So I think it's hilarious. They're like, Carl Urban is willing to suit up as DREDD again. Well, of course he is. Like, why wouldn't he? He's an actor. It's his job to act. So I like this. I think it's massive. Okay, not massively overpraised. I like it. It's overpraised. I have issues, and the first issue is this doesn't feel like a Judge Joseph Dredd or Joe Dredd, the real Judge Dredd. It feels like Joey Dredd or Jimmy Dredd or perhaps Michael Dredd, like his brother that wasn't raised in the same household, a calm household. His cousin who was interested in dentistry and just didn't pass the test, so he went and became a judge. Judge Dredd is a very like over-the-top fascist character, and Carl Urban's version of Judge Dredd is pretty reasonable. He uses excessive force when it's not excessive. Like, he talks to people and he tries to reason with people, and he's reasonable. In fact, there were only a couple of times where he actually felt like Judge Dredd. One is a scene where he's behind a wall. His lawgiver pistol is out of ammo. So an evil judge is shooting through a concrete wall and like misses, and then one goes like right through like Judge Dredd's torso on like the side, and he just guts it. He doesn't scream, he just takes it. Same when he stitches himself together afterwards. And then at the very end, when the villains have been defeated and his supervisor is saying like, hey Dredd, what happened? And he just goes, drug bust. And like, that's such a Dredd thing, to go through this huge, massive, violent adventure and then just say, you realize you are thinking it's a huge day for Dredd, but for Dredd, it's just another day. Probably not even that remarkable to him. So my main problems is the low budget. It's I guess it was filmed on location in a block tower in South Africa, and then they used like digital mats to make it look like twice as tall as it was. It looks cool. It does give off that futuristic vibe that keeps getting destroyed by extras and bit players wearing the clothes that they wore to the audition. Now, Judge Dredd is typically very over-the-top, crazy franchise. And this has been driving me crazy for 12 years. There's this blonde guy. He's married. I believe he's got a black wife. And he's in on the gang, and he's hunting Dredd, and he gets killed. And he's literally just like a guy. Like, he's just a guy in a short sleeve shirt from like Walmart. Like, I really feel like there was a conversation where they're like, ready? And he's like, where's hair and makeup? They're like, at your house when you dressed yourself before driving to the set. What are you talking about? Like, and it's not just him. There's a bunch of characters who just look like guys from Walmart, just walking around. And Mama's gang is supposed to be really scary. Okay, so Mama is really, what is her name? I almost said the woman from Dick Tracy. Glenn Headley? Is that the one from Dick Tracy? Whatever. Her. She's great, awesome, very formidable villain. Economical. They establish she's evil, she's powerful, she's scary, very, very quickly. She doesn't have to get in fist fights with Judge Dredd and the other judges. She puts the fear of God into people. Now, like half of the movie is spent with Judge Dredd and Judge Anderson, who is a trainee essentially, and they're escorting one of Mama's gang. And this guy kind of killed the movie for me, because he's supposed to be a real dangerous individual in a gang that controls the entire block, but he just kind of just goes along, and he's being escorted most of the time by Judge Anderson, who's like $120, and he's like 200 pounds, tall, fit guy. And there's like a million opportunities, even though he's cuffed, where he could just run around a corner or jump over a ledge or just anything, because the judges are getting attacked, they're getting distracted, they're splitting up, and there are a couple scenes where he tries to be dominant over Judge Anderson, and she kind of flips it in a way that's interesting because she's a telepath. But overall, like, you're watching, it's just like this big guy, and it's just like, knock her over, push her over, headbutt her, jump over that ledge, go around that corner while they're distracted. And like, all you need is one line of dialogue when they get captured and Mama says to this guy, it's like, good job, you led them here. It's like, oh, he was playing along. Or you have, since Judge Anderson is a telepath, you establish she has a power like a psychic leash, and if he gets 20 feet away, he gets he has like an aneurysm or something like that. Or maybe she just lies and says she can do that. Or this is sci-fi. They put on some handcuffs on him, and he's like, wait, I can just run away. They're like, yeah, if you get 20 feet away from me for more than 20 seconds, these explode, But no, it's just, he's just in cuffs and they just haul him around. But Karl Urban was good. The judge costumes are fantastic. I just have two issues. The judge helmet, especially on Karl Urban, it's too big. It's like a size too big. And you see the other judges, and their helmets fit on them better. But with Karl Urban, I kept thinking about Dark Helmet from Spaceballs. It's not that bad, but it's pretty bad. But the suit, the design is really cool. My only issue is there's this crisscross, not a motif, design on the visor, and the crisscross are supposed to form like goggles, like Spider-Man's goggles. So logically, the eyeballs should be behind that area. But if you look at them, that's actually their forehead, and their eyes are looking below it. So that was one of those things that bothered me, but it took a while for me to really pinpoint exactly what it was. But the judge costumes look great, although they look better on everyone except for Judge Dredd. In fact, at the end, they have these, spoiler, evil judges. One, I think, is Judge Lex, and he's got this giant square jaw, and I'm like, dude, this is Judge Dredd right here. He wasn't that big of a guy. He looked kind of stocky, but he had the jaw, he had the face, the helmet fit him a lot better. So I was like, I feel like that guy should have been Dredd, and Karl Urban should have been the hostage, or the prisoner being escorted. And it should have been more difficult. They keep going down the same hallways. At one point, there's kind of a cool scene where they get these Vulcan cannons, these Gatling guns, and they put them on one ledge and they shoot across the way to the other ledge, except for it doesn't really make sense. They have those bullets going through inner hallways, and speaking of not making sense, at one point the judges end up, how do I say this, outside the locked down tower on a skate park that's 60 stories up, and they make a call, and then when the judges respond, one of Mama's crew, she has this hacker who works for her, and he's got these cybernetic eyes, but nobody else has cybernetic anything. And he's like, oh no, it's a false alarm. We're just testing our emergency system. And then the judges are just like, okay. They didn't get a distress call from two judges. They're just like, okay, do. But that's bothered me. They did a good job. Some of the action is kind of just, how do you say, formulaic. They're just going through the paces. Some of it is good. Karl Urban he's really trying. I don't think he's a perfect fit for Judge Dredd, at least not Judge Joseph Dredd. A cousin, a brother-in-law who took his sister's last name because he's very progressive. But overall good. What was the word I was saying? I'm driving, so I'm a little distracted. Distracted not from the driving, distracted from recording this video. Overpraised. It's good. It's not as good as basically anyone says it is. So anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.